Celtic Ligers, Celtic Ligers, Celtic Ligers, Celtic Ligers, Celtic Ligers, Celtic.
Okay. I thought you were going to do the 1, 2, and nobody can see it, but I'm doing the.
Yeah, I never understood why they did that.
In case it gets caught in the mic, but
How would it?
you know.
No, they're saying record on
safety.
3 or go.
Yeah.
They're saying record on go, and then they're saying that you're going to mess it up or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more faith.
All right. This is going to be the real start of the podcast.
This is the real start.
Okay. My mic is fucked.
Yeah. Well,
You threw me by saying you have a call at 5:30.
yeah. But you should have been on time. So, welcome to Celtic Ligers.
Yes, this is
Starring
Gareth Liger,
James.
and that is.
Featuring.
Do you see that I call us the Ligers whenever I say, "Oh, the Ligers talk about
Yeah.
this"? Like I refer to us as the Ligers.
I've also been told that you put in a little robot that was talking or something. Is that true?
I mean, like if there's a correction that I have to make and I don't want to pull out the microphone, then I type it into a robot voice.
Yes.
But then the other thing that happens is in the Patreon trailers, I have a little thing that says in a robot voice. I think it says, go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers for more.
So I heard there was a thing where it goes like, when we switch topics, the robot will go like, the robots talk about, whatever.
Oh, the Ligers. Well, like sometimes, like if there's a kind of, like sometimes we'll be like just chatting shit, and it'll feel like I'll feel like, oh, we'll just cut this out and go to the next bit, And so then I feel like if it's too sudden a change, then I'll put in, like there's a bunch of times where it just, whenever it calls for it, whenever there's like a real dramatic change in topic, or like I feel like we've mumbled some words, because I'm very guilty of that, because I was editing a trailer today and the trailer was like, there was a bit where I said he's the oncoming Taoiseach, and I was like, God damn it, really bad. I was like, he's not the oncoming, it'd be the incoming. But like there's so many times where I like fumble my words and I'm trying to make it through a sentence, and just
I get very nervous for what you cut out. What if you're cutting out all my stuff?
No, I don't do that. I let you hoist yourself by your own
But what
petard.
if you don't even recognise my genius and you're like, oh, I'll just cut all that. That muttering, that gibberish.
No, I wouldn't do that. I don't know what I don't overthink it. I just try to, if it feels like there's a bit of flab in it, then I take it out. But it's nothing anybody would miss, I'll tell you that much. So I have my list. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, but I think one thing I really, really want to start off talking about is at the end of the last week's Patreon episode, we were talking about Varadkar being investigated by the guards, and people were speculating, when's he going to go, what's going to happen. Some people on the podcast we listened to would say that, and then neither of us were particularly confident that anything. I don't want to keep talking about it, so that's why I'm just pretending that it's more than one. The Tortoise Shack guys. They said Martin McMahon said he'd be gone by Thursday, basically.
Yeah, maybe he said that. Well,
but I'm just saying, like, we were like, nah, they're just not going to mention it and nothing's going to happen, and he's happy enough where it is. And we said that. I really don't think I was prepared for how much they would pretend that it wasn't happening. Do you know what I mean? Even though I said it. Like the media in general.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, Monday, let's see what happened. Let's see what Micheál Martin says. And Micheál Martin's like, well, this is a blatantly political maneuver by Mary Lou. I'm obviously not going to talk about it. And that's it, really.
He said the letter was, not the prosecution.
Yeah, I know. But, like, he didn't say anything about, like, they just kind of, like, that was, as far as I'm aware, that was the only thing that Micheál Martin said last week in relation to that.
Mary Lou wrote it about it.
And he was like,
she's always writing in about stuff. And I'm not going to respond to this.
And then the weird thing is, like, obviously what happened up in the north is awful with her, with their party voting against the abortion legislation.
Yeah, they didn't
vote.
vote. They didn't vote against it. They abstained from voting.
Oh, they abstained. Sorry,
It was
yeah,
the DP
whatever.
put forward the motion. Sinn Féin abstained, and then
Yeah.
it passed off the back of that.
Yeah, and so it was like, oh, why did you do that? And
why did
Aoife
you do
Moore
that?
has a very good article in the Irish Examiner. But it is very funny that people who don't give a shit about that at all were bringing that up now to be like, oh, well, you can't trust them.
Well,
And
it,
it's
I mean,
like-
it does show you can't trust.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, both things can be true. And
Yeah.
from what they, like, people who truly do not give a shit about what happens up north, bringing this up to distract from the Taoiseach being investigated by the guards. Like, it's so incredibly bad faith, obviously. But I was just like, this week I was like floored by the flair of the punditry, their ability to just maneuver around a story that has so much like meat on it for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really wanted somebody to talk about it, but they were just like, I listened to Drive Time, and that was the
why
best
were
that
you
they had.
listening to that?
Somebody said Sarah McInerney attacked some Fine Gael guy, and it was the interview that they needed to hear. So I was like, okay, thank God, I'll crack that open. And surely it was. I was very happy. She was just like, so, the start off the week, it was like, what's the thing on Monday? And it was like RTE News, and they were like, here's the news, not even in the headlines, okay? Skip to past about halfway through they have the thing that was in the banner headline, which was, oh, the schools are back. And
Which is mad.
and yeah, and they were like, and there's windows open and things are looking great. But anyway, we're going to go outside Leinster
But
House
just
where
before,
yeah.
there's been like a huge uptick in the amount of cases in schools now. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's like, I think there were like 20 cases of, like, in schools across the country, there are 20, whatever, cases.
What?
COVID.
No, I mean, like, I'm so sick of having to pretend like this is complicated. Do you know? Because so many people are like, well, there's like fucking Mark Paul. I mean, this is a whole thing in itself. Mark Paul, where he wrote for the Irish Times, who said that actually he was on like fucking Claire Byrne or some show, I can't remember, or the Tonight Show on Virgin Media, and he said back around Christmas that there was nothing to suggest. There was actually, you were way less likely to get COVID in shops than you were back at your home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we should open up the shops, and actually the transmissions are happening at home, so it's the shops are fine. And it's just this thing, it's like we're almost like we're over a year now, and it's like when you get a big group of people together, then they give each other the fucking virus, you dumb motherfucker. And it's like now we have to be like, oh, well, this is interesting that the schools are back, but actually there's other things to consider. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? Why are you
I know.
this? It's insane to me. But anyhow, yeah, the schools are back, and then they cut to and so Sharon Ní Bheoláin is hosting the news, and then she goes, oh, we're going to go outside Leinster House where Fergal Bowers is there to talk us through what's happening. And it's a bit like deja vu all over again, isn't it, Fergal? Well, it is, yes. The opposition has brought up the leaking again, and then they went through the whole thing,
Yeah.
and they were just pretending like, oh God, blah 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 blah. You done this all again? Really? Seriously? And then they brought up Bobby Story's funeral. They aired the arguments the Fine Gael were making. Oh, but what about Bobby Story? And you're the one to be throwing shade at us for law breaking, etc. And then they finished it up, and of course being investigated by the guards. Okay, thank you, Fergal. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, on to the next story. And I was looking for, please just give me somebody, because then there was Pat Leahy. I'm sorry I'm going off on one, but like Pat Leahy going like, well, it looks like he's going to survive this, but his reputation is definitely taking a hit. And it's like, why is it a foregone conclusion that he's going to survive this? Why are you talking about it like this? And then there was another person, I can't remember their name, that they wrote for the Indo. Oh, here is his name's, let me look this up. I have the tweet here. I don't know if I sent this to you. His name's Owen O'Malley, okay? and he is the social scientist. This is his Twitter bio. Social scientist at law.gov.dcu, writes for Sunday Independent, interested in Irish politics and policy. So the tweet is: can it be a leak if the Taoiseach does it? Isn't the position of Taoiseach such that his decision to give information means it is de facto authorised by the government, and so
people
not a
literally
leak?
made that argument about Trump when he was leaking stuff.
Yeah,
they were like,
well,
it's not illegal when the president does it.
Like, well, this is what the fucking...
I think Nixon said that as well.
Nixon said that. I was just going to say, somebody posted a GIF of Nixon saying that. It's popular enough to be a fucking GIF, you know, like... And then the next tweet that he added to the thing is like, interesting, kind of, you know, like, oh, just noticing this. He goes, but the guy who designed the office, Dev, was of that opinion, you know, ellipsis at the end, like ... And so he for some reason has a... I don't know what it is. It's a Word document that seems to have something written by Dev in it, and he's highlighted a section, and it says, in the 1950s... Oh, it's not written by Dev. In the 1950s, De Valera implied that the Taoiseach was the boss who spoke for government. Quote, when the Taoiseach would do anything, he would be doing it in the name of the government as a whole, end quote. And it's like, so interesting. He said that, so I guess, you know, what's your counter-argument? I was like, what the fuck is... Why do we have to do this? So, Sarah McInerney, I listened to the Sarah McInerney thing, and then, you know, so... the guy comes on and I don't know who they had. I can't remember. Some fucking Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael junior minister who's just some obedient lackey. And so Sarah asks him, like, you know, do you not think that he should probably step down? And there's like, well, you know, I think it's deja vu all over. I was like, fucking hell, deja vu? I'm getting deja vu. I'm hearing deja vu, you know? And then he just gets into it and he says, the point, you know, Sinn Féin are a lawless party and, you know, blah, 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 and they're just using it as political. And she was like, yeah, whatever about that. How do you feel knowing that he's done something that he's admitted is illegal and is being investigated by the guards? Do you not feel kind of ashamed by that? Well, no, he didn't admit it was illegal. Sorry, I take that back. What he said was he admitted that he did it, and it's up for debate in the public, you know, whether leaking confidential information that is literally written on the front, do not circulate, whether that's illegal, do you know? And she's just kind of putting the argument to him, yeah, I hear you about Sinn Féin, but I'm not talking about that, so can we talk about this issue instead? And then he's like, well, you know, Sinn Féin are making it into this, the opposition. And she's like, it's not just Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin aren't the only member of the opposition. There's other parties, and they're right to be concerned about this. Do you not have any kind of, like, think that this is wrong and this is a bad thing? And, you know, and to be investigated by the guards and to be called the law and order party. And he just kind of babbles around the whole thing and says that nothing was done wrong and we don't know anything different than we did back then. And then, you know, and then anyway, you know, she's like, okay, well, you're clearly not answering the question, so I'm just going to, you know, end the interview. And then he kind of is trying to babble his way into, like, no, it's quite an accusation you've made. So I think it's, you know, you might not like what I have to say, but I'm going to have to answer it anyway. And then he says, you know, the truth of the matter is that this thing was something that the then Taoiseach, now Taoiseach, wanted to pass. Everybody wasn't at the table, so he gave the information to them. And then she goes, so you're admitting that they benefited from the information they received? The thing about it's just like there's an audible like pause where he realizes that he's just deviated a bit from the copy, you know, like because they had two counter, you know, it was information is in the public domain. Who cares? Sinn Féin are trying to make it political, and anyways, he only really revealed the information because he wanted it to pass, and it would be better if they had the information. And I was like, okay, so it did have a benefit. So then, yeah. Anyway, it was just bizarre. So that was the only thing. And then there was another one where the other half on Drive Time was interviewing Mary Lou and asking her about it. And then every single question, you knew what it was leading to, the IRA in some way, shape or form. And he's just so transparently bad at his job. The other guy on Drive Time, whatever his name is,
I don't know.
he was just like, so you admit that if you're being investigated by the guards, you shouldn't be, you know. And then she's having to make the point and was like, you know, if you're being investigated by the guards for something that you did while you were in office, then yes, I think you shouldn't be in your position. You know, it's like in relation to matters of the state. And so anyway, that was that. It was just this thing, and now we've reached the end of the week, and it feels like there's barely a fucking whisper. Nobody gives a shit about it. And obviously the truth of the matter is like they have no interest in this story because it would be killing the fucking goose that lays the golden egg. They would be cutting off all of the leaks that they need their jobs to survive on, you know. if they were to comment on it.
I don't know that's true. Like, you wouldn't see an end to leaking if Varadkar got done over this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's amazing that they just kind of pretend like it's absolutely nothing. Or pretend that it's no different to what happened last... Because that was the other thing about the Sarah McInerney thing, because they were like, oh, it's no different to what happened from last year. And she goes, well, I think it's different. Yeah. She's like, I woke up on Sunday morning and I had no idea they were escalating it to an investigation from the guards. Like, she knew that there was a guard inquiry, but she didn't know that it was going to be an investigation. And she's like, I think most people would think that. So it is different.
Like, it's just, like, it's hard for me to hear about the media spectacle of it, because it's all, like, there's no... what do you call it? Like, these people have no interest in doing anything properly. Like, they're not good at their jobs, and it's not a good media. Do you know what I mean? It's like, of course they're not going to make a big deal out of it. They like Fine Gael. They like the two parties. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But I mean, I guess it's frustrating to me, and the reason it becomes the kind of thing that I get fixated on is because so many people view Ireland and politics in general through the media here in this country, and it's annoying because, like, people tend to dismiss anybody that says you should be critical of these state broadcasters and stuff like that as like, oh, you're like no different to Gemma and her gang.
No, that's...
We think that it's all fake news.
Don't say that.
Well, I think that in like...
No, like if you're critical of RT, people don't... I get what you're saying, but I think it's a bit extreme to say that.
Well, I think whether they believe it or not, you know, they go like, oh yeah, you have to take everything that RT says with a grain of salt. But I don't think that people do that. I think that they just kind of like look at the news, take a quick glance. All right, well, if they're not pissed off about it, I guess I don't have to be either.
I think there's a lot of people who just watch the news to know if, like, what is happening at the most rudimentary level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not really getting too much from it. I don't know, like, particularly because it's moved so much and then most people get their news from incredibly curated sources now. I don't know, it's like you look at RT and you look at the main newspapers and it's like, I just don't know. It's like water is wet. You know what I mean? It's like, they're so obviously not going to do a good job on this sort of thing. I just don't look for it. And then even nowadays most people don't even get their main news from the papers. They get it from like Facebook or Twitter or something. You know what I mean? Which are more like bizarre and curious. Like, it's much more hidden as well.
I also, that's absolutely true. Actually, it's a more hidden thing. But I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like, I think about articles that are like, God, you'd miss Simon and Leo all the same, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Because of how bad things are going, and you know, and that there's a kind of like ambient warm fuzziness that comes off through osmosis by their coverage of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that there's a bunch of people who are like,
where that coziness is like reinforced by market forces. You know what I mean? Like, people like that fuzziness, so they buy that paper. You know?
Yeah, I guess like these are probably already people who are predisposed to think that anyway. But it's frustrating that, like, I don't know.
Like,
I just
every time frustrate me because he's just like an animal. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get annoyed at a dog. You know what I mean? It's like, I have no expectations of him, or I feel like I have no delusions around. You know?
You wouldn't be like getting mad at a dog for eating its own shit.
I just wouldn't be like, well, I can't believe Pat Leahy said that. It's like, of course. And if I go looking at it, I feel like I'm looking for that. It's like when you talk to your dad or some old person and you're like, what are your thoughts on trans issues? And it's like, if you're asking that, you're asking for a fight. You know what I mean?
True. I mean, I think that I'm not angry about the opinion. I'm just always curious about the mental gymnastics that they have to go through, and there's always a point to me where it feels like, come on, this has to be the one that's like one too far, where he's being investigated by the guards. You have to at this stage be like, okay, I throw up my hands, I can't really defend this, you know? But it's like, well, I don't know.
People will never do that for political parties they support. Like, we saw it on Twitter this week. Like, we were talking about the Sinn Féin thing earlier. Like, you have people coming out saying that it was part of, like, a
That's
strategy.
true. Yeah.
To abstain.
It's crazy.
It's like,
yeah.
You would think that would be, like, when in the South, Sinn Féin would support abortion. I can't remember whether they did at the time.
Yeah.
And then in the North, they go the other direction. There's no strategy there. There couldn't possibly be.
Yeah,
But
and
the supporters... This is... I get suspicious of people who openly support people. You know what I mean? Because you're just if you're wearing the jersey, you're just gonna... I don't know. Like at least when you're talking to a football player, they'll give out about... Or like someone who supports Liverpool, they'll give out about their team.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking to someone who's like a member of Sinn Féin or a member of Fine Gael, they're never going to criticise the party.
Yeah, I guess it's like they don't... You only have to kind of figure that out after... Like, I listened to about a year's worth of Inside Politics podcasts with Pat Leahy, and I didn't like him. But, I mean, it goes to show how stupid I am, that maybe, like, I didn't realise he was such a tool of the establishment parties for quite a while. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're not stupid for not realising it. It probably takes a while.
Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, he doesn't reveal that. He doesn't let that on. And there's so many people out there who wouldn't do any more thinking or research into it than I did. And somebody is like, who's in the paper of record is an authoritative voice. So it's like, that just must be the news that's happening. And if it's not written about in the paper, then it mustn't be worth reporting on, you know? And it's like, this is fucking important. And it's like, they're pretending like it means nothing. And it's like, it's quite mad, you know? But no, you're right. It's in like, we shouldn't necessarily... Well, you were talking about Sinn Féin there. I thought it was interesting because just before we came on the podcast, I saw somebody share a Sinn Féin supporter going like, they finally, you know, maybe it wasn't a Sinn Féin supporter, I can't remember, but it definitely felt like they were trying to take credit for this, and they were like, Paddy Houlihan's membership is not going to be renewed with Sinn Féin. And then it was like, somebody was posting that going like, posting this person kind of being, yes, Paddy Houlihan's membership not going to be renewed. And they were like, oh yeah, it only took like 14 months. And then about 2 seconds later, they posted up a video from his Instagram and goes, oh yeah, turns out he's doing this voluntarily himself.
Left. Like, it's so bizarre. He left. Do you know why he left? Because he said he felt the investigation was unfair. So he was like, this is unfair, I'm leaving, you know?
Like, it's so funny because they like, some of the stuff that they're doing is just so cowardly. Like, that's basically what's happening with Sinn Féin at the moment, is like, they kind of, with that election win, like, I was pure excited. I showed up to the putches that were happening, or whatever, the fucking, the beer, I was like,
we tried to, didn't we?
We tried to, but they wouldn't, you know, the hall was full, they wouldn't let you in. It was just like, it was excited to feel like there was a lot of people who were eager to have some sort of change. And then Pierce Doherty came out and did a bunch of shouting, and I was like, hell yeah, this is great. And then I just feel like over the past year with the pandemic, they have been incredibly underwhelming and not risen to the occasion at all. And then with stuff like this and what happened in the North, it's just like, it's very Starmer-esque. It's just like, fuck, like, let's just see how this plays out. And then you just do it for too long that eventually you just miss that thing. It's like, if you took some initiative, you'd be doing, I feel like you wouldn't be doing, because I guess it's like, you know, the argument could be made that they're doing pretty well, so why change any sort of strategy? But it's like, you could, you know, relying on the government to fuck up and benefiting from that isn't going to be as good, to me, much of a vote winner as being proactive and trying to, you know, do that stuff. And it just feels like they were like, oh, we don't want to reprimand Paddy Houlihan, we don't want it to leave the party because we rely on that, you know, support of these absolute dipshits who voted him in the first place. And then he's left of his own cognizance, and you're just like, right, so now you don't even get credit for booting him out of the party. That's it. It's just so stupid.
They're just really into like enact. And like, it'd be nice to see some of the people involved in Sinn Féin in government. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about Owen O'Brien or you know, others. And
Pierce Doherty. I mean, like,
but like, it would be great to like see the breakup of like two big parties.
Oh my god!
Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, they've really just been sitting around and not doing much.
Like, Paul Murphy said something. He's like, I think like they would be storming ahead in any polls. Like, he's like, oh, they're doing okay, but he's like, they'd be storming ahead if they just said, we're not going to go into government with Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. They just said that, like, openly. And now they have, like, perfect, like, the fact that they won't rule out going into a coalition with Fianna Fáil after now, he's like, I'm not fucking getting back to a dumbass letter by you that's for political point scoring about the Taoiseach. And she's like, I've written you 12 letters about the vaccine, about this, just listing off all this shit. And it was like, well, that makes you look like a chump, man. Do you know what I mean? You should say something. You should be like, why do you expect them to be any different? Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's just like, I don't know, like, I gotta be honest, like, this is maybe this is a bit of a callous thing to say, but much like with Boris Johnson, I feel like COVID just fucking knocked the wind out of Mary Lou.
Yeah, you definitely haven't seen
notably
anything like too energetic from her in quite a while.
Yeah. No, I feel like I feel like it's not, there's a part where you feel like, oh, maybe it's like that they have this uneasy lead that they're afraid to lose, and that's kind of cowardice, or it's just like, cowardice is kind of harsh, but I'm feeling pretty angry, so I'm going to say it. But the energy from that, it feels like a real betrayal from being outside the SIP2 building and hearing Pierce Doherty shouting into the crowd about Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens, and it's like, I want that energy back. Where the fuck did that go? Why didn't you have some sort of backup plan for,
It's weird, like, you would think within these parties that if someone was lagging, it'd eat them alive. But, like, Varadkar's under investigation from the guards, nonetheless. And he's still leader of the party. Micheál Martin, people are, like, openly speaking to the papers about how they hate him. Like, members of his own government are just like, I hate this guy, I wish he'd quit, and I want to be next. Yeah. And then Mary Lou is just silent. Like, you would think they'd be ousted, but they're not. Maybe just no one wants to be in power at the moment because it's like,
oh yeah, no, 100%.
So we're all just stuck with like, I think I just want to be there,
Yeah. No, these people can afford to wait, so they're waiting, and I don't know.
But it's fucking us over. Like, we're in it a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, did you hear about that it's going to be continued now until fucking June?
Yeah, I did hear that. And like, what was the thing? I just saw a video of it on Twitter, and someone was like, oh, we just need to hold in there for another few weeks.
Ronan Glynn said, like, oh, you're going to need to just put in a little bit of extra effort, and people are like, what more do you want me to do? Well, I fucking...
That's it. It's either you're putting in the maximum effort, or you've given up. You know what I mean? Like, there's no other thing. There's no one who's like, oh, I'll go back to lockdown. They're either doing it or they're not. There's this idea of like, just do a bit more for a little while longer. It's not even anything real. It's not a real strategy. And then they keep saying we can't do zero. Like, it's also like we're doing a half lockdown. The schools are open. The construction sites open. The airports are open.
Probably. Oh, in the airports. And then that's the other fucked up thing. I don't know how much you've been hearing about the South American strain.
No, I haven't heard much.
Unbelievable. It's like we're starting to see some of those strains come into the country. Okay. Mandatory quarantine apparently hasn't been properly reinstated all that well.
So long. Like,
no, because they're like, well, next week we'll definitely do it, and it's like, please just fucking do it. And but anyway, the other strain is like, not only is it more infectious, but also it's starting to affect people between the age brackets of 20 to 30 and causing fatalities. So it's also more deadly. It's like, oh shit, now I'm gonna die.
That's really sick to hear. Before I was just like, oh, I feel so bad for the old people. Oh well. And now I'm just like,
now it's like, it's like that. I was just thinking of that bit in Peep Show where it's like a fire drill, and then it's like, it's just a fire drill, and I was like, oh no, this might actually be a real fire, and then all of a sudden Jeremy's like, what the fuck? And he's like, get the elbows in, Mark.
It's like, just me going around being like, I wasn't all that worried before, but now I'm really concerned. Now we really need to get things under control,
Yeah, like all those politicians who suddenly give a shit about right-wing extremists when the Capitol Hill gets raided. Exactly. It's like, well, this is really serious. There's fascists out here. It's like, yeah, we've told you. But they're going to kill us. Yes, I know. We've told you.
I know they're lynching people, but now they're here.
speaking of people that we told them, Mark Ruffalo, I don't know if you've seen his St. Patrick's Day tweet. Here's the tweet. Mark Ruffalo tweets out, and that was another person that we didn't put in our year-end roundup, which I was like, fuck. So much happened last year that we forgot that Mark Ruffalo did a massive intervention into Irish politics to make sure that the Greens went into coalition.
That's honestly like, because it was too dreamlike. Do you know what I mean? It's like, someone's like, do you know the reason the Greens are in? It's because Mark Ruffalo got on Zoom and told them what to do. It's like, no, I think you've got something wrong there. Do you know what I mean?
I think you were like half asleep and you were reading Twitter and you thought like,
you're watching the Hulk or something. Like, it's too strange. And then he comes back and starts tweeting about it again, and you're like,
so here's the tweet.
I suppose it was real.
So he goes, here's the tweet. It's hashtag St. Patrick's Day and Ireland can lead the world on climate with new hashtag climate action bill, but it must include hashtag no new gas. The bill isn't stopping imports of fracked gas and no new LNG terminals. At Eamon Ryan, at Catherine Martin, at Micheál Martin, at Leo Varadkar, please keep campaign promises. And then you're just like, this is literally what they said to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the exact thing that was said back in summer, you know? I just like, and he's just like, I
know, like, he definitely hasn't thought about Ireland. Like, he definitely just stuck this in his calendar and was like, you know, in a year's time, follow up on that tweet. Like, he hasn't thought about it.
No, I think what happened is he woke up and he's like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. We don't have the day off here, so I don't know that much. Shit, what happened with that coalition that I was talking to in Ireland? Here, it's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. But hey, why didn't they keep their promises? They said they would. And please, keep those promises. I didn't vote for you, and I can't vote for you. But you should really keep those promises, because you promised me, Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk, that you would do this, you know? Unbelievable. So that was great.
Yeah, that was great.
What?
Crazy of them, you know.
Speaking of things that are great, there's a direct provision movie coming.
Hey, I don't see why people are like. Do you think it's that bad?
Yeah, no, I think
it's by your man who made Michael Inside.
I haven't seen that. Don't know much about it.
Just says it's good.
Yeah, but I don't know if you heard the plot for the movie, did you?
Well, I mean, it's a sort of plot where you can sort of imagine what it is. It's like someone in direct like, falls in love with a guard.
Yeah, like you guess what this is about and you'll get it right. You know? Like, it's the most Hollywood kind of thing ever. It's like, this guy, he's only following orders, and then he ends up deporting somebody who's in the direct provision. No, he doesn't deport her.
Right.
He deports. Information that he gives about this person ends up leading to the deportation of her.
But imagine the information is just like, you know, he says he's gay, but you know, I actually saw him look at a woman, and he didn't recoil. So I don't think he's gay. I think he's lying about being an intern wherever he's from. Yeah.
So send him back to wherever and to be beheaded, and you know.
Send him to Saudi Arabia to be beheaded. It's like, no, he's from Nigeria. Just send him to Saudi Arabia.
Just wherever, I don't fucking care. And then it's like, but actually I feel really bad about that, and I'm not joking, this was written in the thing. So he allows her use of the kitchen facilities to make things, okay?
So nice.
And
you can use the broken kettle that's covered in milk.
And you can make yourself a baked potato with a baked potato on top. And to garnish it with a bit of the skin from somebody else's baked potato, you know?
You know, you're not going to hear about baked potatoes. They do not get baked potatoes in direct provision. They get, like,
I think
pasta, like cheapest pasta you can buy.
I thought they only got, like, potatoes, pretty much. The only thing I've seen, like, a meal from direct provision was one potato with baked beans in it, and it was like, this is fucking vile. I hate baked potatoes
so much. They're my least favourite. It's so fucked up how in America, like, a baked potato is, like a fast food thing. Like, that's to me it's just like if you went into McDonald's, we're like, can I have a glass of milk, please? Yeah.
But so that was that. That's what happened there. But the other thing that's interesting is, like, first of all, whenever they, you know, any Irish film that has a woman in it, they cannot be played by an Irish woman. It cannot be done. It cannot be played, or God forbid, even played from the country that this person is supposed to be from. It's like, no, they have to be English. Always English. Nothing else but that. And then I was like, okay, well, I read the last guy's last name, O'Connor. At least he's Irish. No, he's English as well. And he also played Prince Charles in The Crown. So this is the 2 stars of our direct provision movie, where the guard is actually kind of nice and learns that actually direct provision's a little shitty, isn't it? And then they fall in love, and then presumably she also gets deported or something like that. Like there's no way that a movie like this ends with, actually, she's, direct provision is,
No, that is how it'll end. It'll be like, the happy ending will be that she escapes deportation, and then it's like, but everyone else gets deported. Like,
well, I don't think it's going to have a happy ending. I think it's like one of those.
At the direct provision center, and it's like, done.
Is it going to be? Is it going to have film board money? Because that would be so funny to me.
Sick. Like, as in bad. Thick as in bad.
Oh yeah, no, that would be just so disgusting that the state creates something like this and then funds a film about. It's like that Frankie Boyle.
Fund. Like, they'll just take the money away from one of the centers. They'll be like, we use it to make a film.
But that Frankie Boyle joke about, not only will America come and invade your country, they'll come back about 5 years later and they make a movie about how sad it made their soldiers to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally like that. If Screen Ireland were investing it, but it's not impossible to imagine that they would, because they pretty much have funding in every single film that's produced in Ireland.
Like, during the pandemic, we've had 3 hunger strikes in direct provision centres, or has it been 2?
Yeah,
2 or 3. We've had like an unknown amount of suicides, because I don't think they keep records on that. Like, we've deported people for no reason, and they're making a fucking film about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's it's not going to show how grim the whole thing is. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, not at all.
Like,
no idea.
Like, how intolerably racist the system is. You know what I mean? It'll just be like, she'll be like a prisoner or something. You know what I mean? She'll be like represented as a criminal or something. Like, it's going to represent her like she somehow deserves it.
Yeah, or like, that kind of saying that there's no such thing as an anti-war movie. Do you know what I mean? That's what I feel like about films like Michael Inside and these prison things. It's like, I mean, it doesn't make it look cool, definitely not. But when you make like films like that, it almost like, because it's almost to be like, God, isn't that awful? I wish we could do something anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the direct provision, it's almost like the film becomes activism. Do you know?
Yeah,
so it's antithetical to the abolishing of these awful systems. It doesn't actually create the awareness that somebody is saying, oh no, it's important to have movies about this so people know what's going on. It's like, people already know what's going on, they just like don't give a shit. And in fact, like, it just becomes part of that kind of malaise of the things that we just feel like we should do something, but also ultimately know that we can't do anything about it.
And, I mean, one of the worst bits of direct provision is like if you, like, we took that drive to that direct provision centre, and it was like, if you're there for a weekend or a week, you'd be like, this is fine, there's not much to do, but it's fine. And then it's always like, you live here now for 10 years. Like,
I know.
You'd be like, this is hell. So like, when you're watching a film, it'd be quite surprising if they managed to get the fact that it's like, where you have a bed, you're on relative safety, but like, you have no rights and you're here forever. You know what I mean?
Like, that's what Bulani Mafako, he's in direct provision. I don't know if he still is, I hope not, but he's an activist against it. But he, on the Irish Passport podcast, they interview him, and I'd highly recommend everybody go and look up the direct provision one for that. But anyhow, one of the things that's just exactly what you said, one of the quotes from the thing is like, I mean, there's only so many times you can play table tennis, is what he said. It's like this type of thing where it's like, you're in like the worst camping site that you went on, when you were 12 with your parents for 2 weeks in the summer, except it never ends. It's forever.
I did a talk by an artist who lived in direct provision. And someone asked her, like, why isn't there not more art coming out of this? And she's like, it's too depressing. Like, as in, you're just not getting stimulated in any way whatsoever. And then all your energy is spent trying to get yourself out of direct provision, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how, like, once you said that, there was so many... You feel like people, by the time all this shit is over, will have so much sympathy with this. Hey, they got a bed and they got 4 roofs. I was like, now, okay, you've had what they've had for about a year now. Like, obviously more freedoms, obviously, and you can cook your own meals and stuff like that. But can you understand how it might be incredibly mind-numbing and frustrating, and you like don't feel like you need to do anything because you've now been inside for about a year as well, you know? And the answer is going to be no. It's going to be I actually because I was just thinking, I was listening to because the Dolores Cahill thing, do you remember her?
That wagon.
Yeah, that was funny. That was
CD.
Yeah.
She was like, people keep thinking she's a doctor. She has the Joe Biden effect where people were like, she's a doctor, you know, and no, she's a doctor. She's a lecturer, like.
Yeah. But she went up and she said that masks basically reduce the amount of oxygen going to your brain, which makes you easier to manipulate.
Yeah. Have you seen it's a similar vein. Have you seen you on Dr. Naomi Wolf?
No.
I don't know quite who she is, but I see her getting like tweeted a lot and quoted on all these like anti-vax things. And she says that if you, she's like, children learn to smile by looking at people, which they don't. It's like even blind children smile, apparently. It's like they learn to smile by looking at people. So if you lower a child's mask, you'll see that they're not, like, their face is just hanging paralyzed because they've never seen anyone smile.
Even still, like, when they say this type of stuff, they're like, they act like you're wearing your mask while you're in sleep.
Exactly.
Like, you wear it for about 10 minutes when you're in contact with somebody at the shop, and then you take it off. It's like, oh, you're reducing the oxygen flow for 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Be like, even if it were true, it'd be like, you know, fucking being in a mountain or something, do you know, where there's a slightly lower air for a little bit. It's like, it's not really that fucking big a deal.
That's it. But yeah, I don't think she's been fired, has she?
I don't know what it is. I think it was something happened, but basically I don't think she's like a lecturer anymore. I don't think she's been fired, or I don't know how it works, but I think her work has been, like, I mean, you know, they had to do something, and I think they did, but one of the funny things was that Mark Paul was underneath it going like, Jesus, you know, my God, at this. And as I said before, Mark Paul is the guy who said that we don't need mandatory quarantine, and we also, you can't actually get COVID in shops. You're less likely to get it in shops. And it's like, you make up bullshit science for a living, and you're saying about this, but like, what is the difference except you find this person completely uncouth, you know, except the class element, you know, where it's like, well, even then she's a fucking lecturer. Do you know what I mean? It's like, she's not even like but it is these people, like, you could see from the interviews at RTE that they were, you know, people see it as like, there are people from a certain demographic who are attending these, and they're crazy, and they're the type of like dumb people in the public who are easily influenced by stuff.
But
and
that's the whole thing of like the anti-COVID march, all this sort of stuff. People think they're all like working class idiots, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas they're not, but, you know.
Yeah, they're not. And also, like, I mean, you get to a stage and you're trying to come up with some excuse to make sense of how awful everything is. And for a while, we could have been like, why everything is awful and it's not getting better. And maybe for a while we could have said like, oh, look, get a load of those guys. But how can you do that now? You're like, after it's like, well, I guess it'll be June and maybe you should pull your weight a little bit more. It's like, no, I'm not, I don't have sympathy for their arguments. I just have like, you know, who am I to say to you that, oh, more fool you for believing that this stuff is bullshit and whatever. It's
I'll trust Michael Martin. Thank you very much. I think as well with those guys, like, what's his name? Mark Paul. They have this thing where they're like, you know, they see Dolores Cahill as telling lies, because she's making definite
Yeah.
claims. You know, she's like, vaccinations do this or don't do this. Whereas Mark Paul just sees himself as like cleverly skeptical, and he's like, actually, you
Yeah.
can't catch it in a shop, you know, or you can't catch COVID walking down the road, all this sort of stuff. I think
Yeah.
he doesn't see himself as telling lies so much as like being common sense.
I think he's like a columnist, and like I tweeted this during the week because I thought about it. I was like, Twitter like turns everybody into some columnist who's like writing for a deadline and has to come up with like these
Yeah.
crazy ass takes that just, and then they start buying into their own bullshit almost. And that's what I kind of feel with Mark Paul. Mark Paul is somebody who's like, he needs to have a take on everything. And then, so his take on this is like, well, I'm the guy who's like, you know, put my fingers together and I'm thinking about solutions
Yeah.
for this problem. Do you know what I mean? And actually, like, the research shows here and the evidence suggests, and it's like, well, and it's always like in response to somebody else. It's like, it's like that type of Reddit personality where it's like, actually, did you know that such and such is what am I getting at? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where it's like,
I've been listening to this streamer, actually. He plays like computer games.
Yeah.
He'll get stuck in a boss, and then it'll be like, okay, I know what to do. He just has to do it a few times. And then constantly people are always suggesting alternative strategies to him that are really convoluted. And he's like,
yeah,
no, you just have to get good and do it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't
yeah,
need a
yeah.
million other pieces of advice. But all these people are like,
Yeah.
I've died once, so why don't you just reopen the shops? Or, you know, why do we just panic?
Yeah.
You know? That's sort of Mark Paul. He's like, he doesn't get that sometimes it just needs to be hard for a while. And that
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, no,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not working. So why do we just reopen the shops and maybe, you know, close down the hospitals and just see if that works, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Real,
It's like, just wear a mask in the shower and, you know.
have we tried it? We don't know
Yeah.
yet. It could be very effective,
Yeah.
you know?
Have you been seeing any of this stuff that's happening between Putin and Biden?
I sent you something that I thought was very funny that he said.
it's very
I
good.
think.
Like, Biden, you said to me the thing was like, Biden was like, you're a killer, Mr. Putin.
No, he said he was talking to a
Yeah.
press corps, and he said that one time I met Putin and I said, I looked into your eyes and you don't have a soul, and or something like that.
That was
Let me
it.
look up
And then
this
he
thing
said,
again.
Takes one to know one or something, wasn't it?
No, he didn't say takes one to know, and he was like it was something like, oh, how good of you to know
Yeah.
this, or like, haha, you know, something like that, you know. And clearly, like, if you were to believe that he actually did say that, which actually I guess I do because he's an old man and of course he would.
Yeah.
But so Biden tells Stephanopoulos is a big, I think his name is George Stephanopoulos, he's a big broadcaster over in the
Yeah.
States. He once told Putin, quote, I said I looked in your eyes and I don't think you have a soul. He looked back at me and said, we understand each other.
I was like, it's this
And it's
Steven
like-
Seagal film, like,
Yeah, either, so that's a real exchange. That, I mean, I believe that happened. But then people are like, oh my God, Putin is evil. He doesn't have a soul. And he's like, aha, you know. I see. Either way, like, Putin thinks that's a really cool line. Putin is fucking with them. That's also possible. But then the thing that is obvious about it is just the part where he says, I told another human being that I looked into your eyes and I don't think you have a soul. Somebody who you're talking to as a diplomat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, no, you're the weird one in this.
yeah,
Like,
you're insane.
like, maybe I would say that if somebody asked me. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't imagine when I would, but if there were no stakes, maybe. Like,
Maybe I would go, oh, guess I don't have a soul. Haha.
Yeah.
You know, I would probably say that, you know.
but since then, Putin, like one of his aides, went off about how Biden has dementia, and then Putin was like, he came out the next day and he was just like, Biden, I want you to look after yourself. Your health is very important, and he doesn't, and I'm not joking. And then he said this. He says, I'm not joking. There's no irony here. Look after your health. Which is just like, just the amazing response, isn't it?
It's so good.
Like-
I mean, like, that's
Like,
some good
Putin
shit, you know.
is such an old school Russian leader. It's amazing. Like, I saw a thing where he was singing Blueberry Hill. You know that song?
Yeah.
And he comes out
No?
and he sits down at the piano and, like, very obviously can't play the piano.
Was it Salisbury Hill?
No, some just song, some pop song.
Okay, whatever.
He's very obviously can't play the piano, but he's like just learned the opening riff, and then he plays it, and then like a band comes in and starts playing, and then he sings just his karaoke version. It's amazing. Like, you're just like, this guy can do everything. He's like a musician.
Yeah.
And it's just so perfectly curated that he looks good.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, he's just sort of very fascinating.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, like, I think his ability to fuck with people, I really like. You know what I mean? And
like,
yeah, but you just reminded me then, like, and I obviously there's other American podcasts that have spoken about this. But when Biden says his Aunt Gertie was the best back scratcher ever, and no disrespect to the Greeks, but she made the best rice pudding.
Yeah, he's just talking about being
and
Irish.
it's like,
He's like,
He's
that's
just
his
like-
anecdote about being Irish was, yeah, my Aunt Gertie gave the best back scratches, which is creepy. And then she
it's
made the
insane.
best rice pudding. No offense to the Greeks. And it's like, neither of those things are any, like, particular to anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like rice pudding.
And like, you know the way people were like, oh, he has to go to. Here's what happened. Okay, so like we were talking earlier about the news and how I'm like a bit too obsessed with what Pat Leahy and RT are saying when it doesn't really matter. But the thing is, I ring up my parents and then they'll say something to me, and I'll realize, like, I was like, what the fuck is that in relation to? And then realize that this is because they're only consuming like RTE and that type of stuff. You know. So my dad said to me, so do you think he'll get the few million, you know? And I was like, few million? Like, what are you talking about? And I guess, and maybe I'm the one who's out of the loop, but there was a whole discourse that the reason it was important for Micheál Martin to go to America or to talk with Biden is so he could try and get a few million more vaccines sent over. And I was like, that's so bizarre to me. But actually, that's like, Gavin Riley has been tweeting about this like for the past few days now. They're talked about the thing, and it's like, and actually, did you know that he was on the phone with them for an hour and a half afterwards? So it might be some progress there. And it's like, oh, and then Biden said there was this many vaccines, and that actually he, you know, will consider it in the future. And it's like so pathetic. It's just so like, you know. Do you have any? It's like, and that they'll give them to you if you like talk with them over a Zoom link with the fucking bowl of, even in person with a bowl of shamrocks. It's like, you know, it's literally like, you know, when you watch, I've never watched an episode of The West Wing, but in those type of political things, they'll have like the walk and talk where Martin Sheen will walk into the Oval Office, and then there's like an aide coming up next to him who's going, we've got the ambassador for Zimbabwe here, and you have to talk to him for 10 minutes. God, those Zimbabwe, well, let me see what, you know, and it's like there's a million things on his agenda, you know, and that's literally what it was like with this meeting. It's like, this will be a fun hour and a half. I get to talk about how Irish I am, and then I get to move on with the rest of my day, and, you know, not only involuntarily but voluntarily forget everything that happened in the past, you know, hour and a half. And all the people in Ireland are like, did you see what he said about Ballina? You know? It's like so embarrassing. You're making us look like fools. You're making me look like a fucking
That's
fool.
it. In some ways, it'd be like, the annoying bit is that Micheál Martin is like, yes, we talked for an hour and a half. Like, what's the word? The like unsaid bit is like, we spoke as equals, is what he's trying to imply.
Yeah.
Whereas really, if he was just like, I bowed and scraped for an hour, and like after an hour and a half of polishing his boots, he gave me a couple of vaccines. Like, it would almost be more respectful. You know what I mean? Like, I read about how in China in the 1700s, you were sort of expected to like bow to the emperor and like get down on all fours and like crawl towards him. You weren't ever allowed to look at him, and then you had to like crawl backwards out of the room after like leaving a tribute to him. It's like, if I saw Micheál Martin doing that to Biden, I'd be like, at least he's being honest about the relationship. You know what I mean? Whereas this thing of when Biden is like playing along, pretending that they're equals, it's very... That's the most sickening part to me, you know?
Yeah. But it's funny because, like, you know, obviously people were joking about, that hour and a half conversation was like Grandpa
Yeah,
Simpson.
it's probably just the same 5
but then you
minute
get
conversation that happened like
Yeah.
25 times. Any news in the
Yeah,
rice
yeah.
pudding, you know?
Yeah, no, but that's it. It's like, you know, people can argue like, oh, it's great to have a nice guy back in the Oval Office. And actually, it was probably a decent conversation. It was like, once you get that snippet of conversation, you know, it's like, no, we were right. It is an hour and a half of him just like, you know, synapses just firing off in his head and these things just surfacing where it's like, back scratching?
That's it.
Rice pudding?
It's like Neil Martin's like talking about new technology. And it's like, back scratchers have got very advanced, haven't they? Like,
oh, you're a record player, excuse me.
Back in my day, there
like,
were an alligator's hand stuck on a piece of cloth, you know?
Why is this picture frame talking to me? I love that he goes, remember when he said about the statue of like Roosevelt? He's like, oh, it's like he could reach out for the shamrocks. He should be doing that. It was like, it doesn't have any hands. It does like, it's a
really
head, it's a bust. It's like,
I made a joke and you never responded to it on Twitter. Do you see it?
What is it? What was it? Sorry, no, I must have missed it.
Mine was probably like, who invited the black guy? Because the hair was black.
Yeah. Somebody liked it.
Wasn't
you know, I guess I was wrong to think it was racist, but whatever. You know?
Biden's racist. No?
Yeah. Do you think that Biden must have felt like terrified that like, because he said makes this comment about like the statue reaching out its hands, and then the TV is talking to him, and he's like, oh my God, you know, like, what is going on here?
I thought the statue was the Taoiseach, and then.
So very good. Yeah. Let me see my list real quick. I don't think we have enough time to get into anything else on it. So we have to thank the patrons, and we've almost been talking for an hour. So I'm going to wrap it up with a nice little, you know, blam, a little. Let's give it another little story thing. I heard that. So let me see.
Trump challenged Meghan Markle to a presidential run.
Oh, that's funny. Here's one. Customers still waiting for refunds after PS5 consoles were not delivered before Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Is there really anything in that? I don't know why I thought there'd be something in that.
And I've been trying to figure out whether I want a PS5 or a PS, Xbox. A PS box.
A PS box. I'll tell you, you should go for a PS5 because, like, I know somebody who got the Xbox Series X, and they were like the exact same as you. Was like, shit, yeah, I got access to all these games, etc. And then they're just like scrolling through just endless like Call of Duty grey bullshit. You know, it's like
but then
you get access to the games, but it's like what games? They're just like a million Assassin's Creeds that basically you could play one of them and you played them all.
Yeah, but the thing is that Microsoft bought some of the biggest game manufacturing.
Yeah, Bethesda, I believe they just acquired recently.
So it just seems like any of the good ones will be exclusive to Xbox, if at all. I don't know, it's just like what games are on PS5 that aren't on Xbox. There's like Demon's Souls, which I want to play on PS5. I think it's eventually coming to Xbox. I don't know, I just can't see PS5 getting any big exclusives. So,
well, they've got some stuff that I'm interested in. I'd be eager to get into it, you know. Well, a certain little furry and metallic duo called Ratchet and... But no, there is Ratchet and Clank.
Is that
but
PS5
that's not
exclusive?
Yeah, that's a Sony exclusive. And then they have... What was the other one where you play like a cat that looked really fun, the launch title? And then there's been a bunch of stuff that I've seen where I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. And any future Spider-Man titles are only going to be released on that as well. So
yeah, maybe I'll get...
I don't know. There's a few though that I'm kind of curious about.
My theory is that it alternates. You see, so it goes. PS1 was better than N64. No, N64 was better than PS1. PS2 was better than the other one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Xbox 360 was better than PS3. PS5 was better than the other one.
PS4.
No, PS4, yeah, was better than the other one. Now, by my calculations, it is.
Xbox are due one.
Yeah, Nintendo DS is better than PS4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next Switch is going to be the greatest console ever made.
Nintendo really fell off. Like, people like the Switch, but I'm not sold on it.
Well, no, I think that the Switch, like, you couldn't get it anywhere with lockdown, and they've kind of found their groove, and it's like, apparently something happened with, like, you know, they had the Wii, and then they had the Wii U, and the Wii U was like an absolute disaster, and so then they found something with the Switch, and it's like, well, we don't really need to mix it up, and we kind of got these titles to keep people, like, captive for however long, and they don't depreciate in value, and, you know, like, you cannot get Wind Waker for less than, like, 60 or 70 euro, which is insane to me. But anyhow, I think that they've got a pretty captured audience because they went all in on this kind of colorful family console, so they just have this base that isn't really going anywhere, whereas the other two are kind of the same thing, so they're always fighting over the same people a lot of the time. But what's the point I was going to make? Oh yeah, I don't think that anybody has botched the rollout of a console more than the PS5. Like, 'cause at the start it was like the scarcity. I was like, oh, are you going to be able to get it? And this is kind of like novel, and it's like, but then you get into like March, and then people are like, I still don't have it. And it's like, well, you really fucked it. It's no longer like some sort of like, you know, PR thing where you pretend that it's in such high demand that you just can't get it anywhere, and actually it makes it more valuable. It's like, no, now it's just annoying. And then when people do get it, they don't seem to be able to play any. They also didn't have any like launch titles that really excited anybody, so so yeah, I don't know. I think, well, all of them are fucking up. Like, Xbox is also fucking up because that Halo thing looked like absolute shit. Remember, like, is there any standout like launch titles from the Xbox where you're like, okay, cool, this is good?
No.
You know,
But part of me wonders if it's just because I'm 30. Like, do I just not, you know, see any of this? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, if you're like 16, you're sort of very excited when one of your friends gets, like in my case, a PS3. You sort of know everything about it. Whereas now I'm 30 and it's like, maybe I just don't know anything anymore.
Oh, you see, well, I definitely watch like more video game related things than I did when I was a teenager, which is very funny. So I like know, well, you know, having said that, they are stuff that kind of rehash.
Exactly, that's what I do too.
A lot of things. Yeah,
I've been watching games I already played, or like old games.
Yeah,
I'm not watching like I remember when Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out. Like, for like months before, I was like buying game magazines and just reading about it. And just being like, wow, there's bikes. That's not something I do now.
I think also that the technology has caught up to such a degree that actually, like, it's harder to even get particularly excited about it, you know, because it's like, it's kind of leveled off, you know? Like, I remember that there was a distinct difference between the Xbox, PS2 and the GameCube, you know, and there was different things in each version, and it was kind of like a battle over tech. Now the tech is just kind of like caught up with each other, so they're trying to sell it on games, and then if they don't have any, I don't know, good decent launch titles or any sort of like gimmick or cachet, then they kind of aren't really reported on. Like, you know, there's individual games that get a lot of press, but
the big thing is like the loading.
The loading, for sure.
The PS5 does seem to have insane loading abilities.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Like, you just walk straight into a fully rendered New York City.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited about.
Okay.
That's why I kind of like it, because I like some of the games off of it, and I'm just kind of like, it's not anything made on like which one's better or worse. It's literally like at a gut level almost to this stage where you're just like, that's cool. It's got that game that I kind of like, so maybe that's the one, I suppose. Why not, you know? But anyway, yeah, that was that had some meat, I guess. I don't know if it's anything we haven't said before, but whatever.
Oh, it's good to say it again.
You know, it bears repeating that actually PS5 is you know, it bears repeating the same things about the PS5 and the Xbox. So that's that. Now go to, if you're not already a Patreon Patreon subscriber, go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers, and for €5 a month you get an additional bonus episode each week, and you also have an access to our back catalogue of amazing content, including us. Some of the episodes are very hard because some of them are just more of a continuation of what we do already. Yeah. So if you want more,
you have to be real
go there.
To listen through most of the old one. Just to be like, I wonder what their take was on, 2 weeks after Golfgate, and Phil Hogan's
that is funny.
fabled interview.
Yeah. I mean, I do listen back to old Chapo episodes when they talk about things, and I'm like thinking about them in like 2016. It's like, they have no idea what's coming.
Sometimes though I get this thing where I'm like, wow, why are they so annoyed about that? And I'm like, because they were there. Like, it's in my head, they're still annoyed about it for some reason.
Yeah. Well, this is the timeless quality of the Patreon episodes is that we also have a review of the Brexit TV movie. I can't remember what it was called, but it was very stupid. And then we have V for Vendetta, and
are we going to be putting the
Joker
we
had something
ones
else.
Up there, or what?
God, I can't wait to do this Joker thing. Those Joker ones are going up. So for the month of April, we're doing it's the month of Fools. So we're watching the Joker in a variety of films, including maybe we'll start off with this one. Although I like chronology, but Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League, which features the Jared Leto Joker.
Will you send me the link to that?
Yes, it's 4 hours long, James.
Yeah, at first.
And it's in fucking 4:3. It's like, I feel like everybody's going to have talked about this by the time we watch it, but and I want to be canonical. I kind of want to start off with like Cesar Romero Joker and then get up to Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I think that would be really funny.
You want to watch all of them?
Not all. Well, no, we're gonna pick and choose. I would personally, but I know that you don't want to, so that's why I'm saying no. We're not doing that. We'll just choose 4, and they have to be like wildly different. Do you know what I mean? Where you're just like Cesar Romero versus Heath Ledger, where you're like, what the fuck is this exactly? Do you know?
I mean, I watch more than 4.
Okay, cool. Well, there's one that I really want to watch, which is The Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, where the Joker comes back to terrorize Gotham City in the far-off future. Do you remember in that future series, Batman Beyond? And it's actually a very good movie, but it is just very funny that it's good because, it's so incredibly stupid to have a future version of Batman that literally flies around the place.
Yeah, isn't he like disabled? The old one? Doesn't he get his back broken or something?
Kind of. He's got I don't know if he gets his back broken, but he's got a cane, and he's in the Bat Cave all the time, and he's just given out to Terry McGinnis, the guy who takes over from him, who it turns out, and this is a spoiler for anybody who's watching Justice League Unlimited, is actually a clone of Bruce Wayne made by Amanda Waller. Because she thought that the world always needed a Batman, and she never told Bruce, but actually he's like the biological son of Bruce Wayne, because she like used nanobots on Terry's dad to implant him with like, I guess, fucking, Bruce Wayne's seed.
Yeah, the nanobots just crawled up his dick and then like and this is
a children's cartoon,
and then I don't know.
Like, I'm not joking. That was in the cartoon, not the sperm bit, but that they said that they were like, your dad's your dad, but somehow he had Bruce Wayne's DNA.
It's like a close-up, just like shot, just real human dick is in the middle.
Yeah. So I really hate that detail. So you can kind of ignore it if you like, because it's like the last one.
It's canonical. You said it yourself.
All right, now let's time to thank our patrons, and we'll do it like we did last week because that was really quick, and we only have 10 minutes to go.
The theme is
we don't have a theme. That's what we did last week.
No.
Ant-Man. Why are you saying Ant-Man?
I just love the film.
Because I was actually talking to Ronan Scary about Ant-Man and having difficulty with you explaining to me why. Do you remember the size argument that we had?
Yes, yeah.
I literally just said this today to Ronan Carey, And so when you said Ant-Man, because I was like, James is unable to explain this to me, and because he's watching the movies, he's talking to me, we're having conversations about Marvel movies, and I was like, can you explain to me in ways that I understand why when Ant-Man gets shrunk down, people all move like slower, they don't move,
That's not what you
because
asked.
it's meant to
That's
show
not
the
what
scale.
You asked. You were like, why is he
I
not,
did ask that.
Why is he not heavier or something, was what you asked. You didn't ask me why people sped off. No, you definitely didn't ask that.
Why didn't they speed up?
Oh, that was it.
Why do they
didn't
kind of
they speed up?
Why don't when he's small and he looks up and it looks like they're giants and they're moving so slow? It's like, why is that the case? Wouldn't it just be like the exact same?
I don't know why. Oh, maybe you didn't phrase it that way when you were arguing.
Sorry.
I thought you were asking.
No.
Why doesn't Ant-Man move faster when he's big or something?
Oh yeah, I did ask that, and that what you then said like a thing that made sense. But then when I addressed the shrinking thing, maybe that's where it got lost in the confusion, because that's kind of then where I kind of was like, okay, I guess there's the forces at work on his body which would make it harder for him to move. But then when I thought about it, I was like, well, why the fuck when he's smaller? Ronan had an answer for that, but I'm not going to pull it up. It's really not worth it. Or will I pull it up? I do have Twitter up.
Yeah, get it up. Sure, why not?
Yeah, fuck it, why not?
No,
he said, okay, and I'll bleep it out if it's but it's not, he's worried that he's going to say something offensive, but maybe he doesn't want his private correspondence about Ant-Man read out, you know. He says, I mean, he's able to dodge bullets and everything when small. I know there is some controversy regarding the films, though, because his density never changes in the comics. So when he's small, a punch from him is like a bullet. But when he's big, he would still only be as strong as a normal man. I think the films just changed it, though, because that's stupid. So that actually doesn't really explain all that much to me.
Completely different conversation.
Okay, here's what he said. Yeah, that was actually in response to something else. He actually said, "Oh, I was thinking about this."
He just like, and another thing.
I said, when Ant-Man is shrunk down, how come everybody moves slower? Wouldn't they move at the same speed? And he said, oh, I was thinking about this. I thought it was that when he gets smaller, he moves faster than normal because all of his mass and nerves are condensed down, and then everything by comparison would seem slower around him, the way the flies can get away so quickly. And I was like, okay.
What the fuck are you talking about? The two
that checks out to me. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So up
It's
first
like
in our thank yous.
Like just one of those inane dream conversations that they have.
So Ant-Man is the theme, and up first is Mickey Finn. And Mickey Finn, like the fins that an ant has.
What about
so
Flicky
you're welcome for that one.
Finn?
Yeah, Flick, like from Ant-Man, from fucking A Bug's Life. Yeah. Flicky Finn, who's now from the now cancelled A Bug's Life, which featured Grasshopper Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Joanne Heffernan, well, I think this is obvious. Joanne Heffernant.
I was going to say Joanne Elephant. Because aren't elephants afraid?
Yeah, because elephants fucking hate ants. Do you know that there is actually there's a great podcast with Yakov Smirnov on WTF with Mark Maron, and he said that when he was in Russia, he had to go to the Ministry of Jokes, because they had that back in the Soviet Union, to defend a joke that he made about ants and elephants.
I've heard that one.
Okay. Will I say it on the pod? Is it worth?
Remember it.
Well, he said that the joke was ant and an elephant get married, and then the elephant dies the next day, and the ant says, "Woe is me. Only one honeymoon, and now I must spend the rest of my life digging a grave." Okay. And they were like, oh, is the ant in relation to the worker, or is there something there? And he was like, no, the ant is just an ant that has to, dig a grave for her husband who she had sex with. So
was he telling the truth,
makes
or
no
was
sense.
he lying?
I don't know. He didn't reveal.
Comedian never reveals.
That was quite a good podcast. It was quite fascinating. But it's funny at the end, because he was like, "Oh, I'm doing a class where I'm talking about how men and women are different." You'd have to hear it. So look up Yakov Smirnov on WTF. All right, Benson, what do we got? That's like
and gone.
There's been some ants in here.
Yeah, okay.
They're eating everything.
Good.
Yeah.
How do you know there's been some ants in here?
Huh?
All the sugars.
Yeah. Frances Breen. That's of course.
my aunt Frances Breen, man.
Yeah, okay. My aunt Frances Breen. Simon Akers. Look at all these acres of ants. They're eating everything. It's like that scene from Indiana Jones where he gets eaten by all the ants. The one that nobody likes, Kingdom of the Crystal
he's
Skull.
like, ants. Why do it have to be ants?
Yeah. Interesting point. Frank Darabont wrote the script for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It got a rewrite. But in the actual movie, they get eaten by a big sea of ants, the guy. But in his version, a giant fucking ant ate somebody. So I'm not sure which is better. The ants did look very bad. Mark Stokes, and that'll be...
what about Mark Stoke-on-Trent? Like Stoke-on-Trent?
Yeah, Stoke-on-Trent, except it's for ants. So it's called Stoke-on-Ant. You know the way Stoke-on-Trent is just for Trents? Well, this is Stoke-on-Ant, and it's just for ants. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark Maloney, that'll be, Spark Maloney, like the first spark at the start of it all that started the first ant, do you know?
Yes.
Yeah, at the start of the universe, the ant.
Yeah, God was like, what should I make first? An ant.
An ant, obviously.
Start from the first
Duh, that's what he was like.
7 days later, he makes man.
Makes fucking millions of ants.
Yeah.
And then after that, he makes human.
Yeah, then the second week, he makes the
Kerry
rest of the
man.
universe.
Yeah.
Kerry man.
So... I know that was just a sheer cynical tactic by Josepha Madigan, but when she said it, I was like, whatever, call that stupid paper the Kerry people, who gives a shit.
What did she say again?
She went on, she was like, I think we need to be more inclusive with our language, and the Kerry man should be renamed the Kerry people. And I was like, and everybody's going off about it, like left and right. They're like, this is so stupid. And I was like, don't even bother. Just say, yes, it should. Let's move on. You know what I mean? Like, who gives a fuck?
It should be called the Kerry person.
Yeah, or something, whatever. Kerry, just, it doesn't matter. Like, but I do think that the gender thing is stupid and is antiquated and probably should be taken out. But also, I don't care enough to comment on it, except for just now. So, next up is Blahin de Burka, and it's all scattering the ants.
What about Blahand? The... where do ants live in?
A hive. They live in they live in an anthill, don't they? A colony. Colony de Burka, you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Colony de Burka.
Yeah. And I know there's other connotations to that, but we're talking about ants, and I strictly mean ants. Okay.
Yeah, strictly an ant colony.
Yeah, as strictly a racist ant colony.
Strictly
Alan Carroll, Ant. Alan the Ant Carroll. Alan.
What about an Aunt Carol?
Yeah.
Like my Aunt Carol. She's English.
I feel like we've used that, but okay. My Alan Aunt Carol.
Yeah. No, my. Sorry. An Aunt Carol.
An Aunt Carol. Okay, cool. Rob Gale. I was just thinking of the first one you said for him, which was throbbing male.
Yeah.
What about a sobbing male? Because they're like, I hate ants and they're all over me.
I'm scared of ants.
I'm so scared of them. Why did it have to be ants? Indiana Jones.
Why did it have to be ants?
Yeah, sobbing about all the ants, which he's afraid of. Alison Spittle.
That's it. If your man was real, he would cry at the sight of a snake. That's how you know it's a film.
Yeah, he'd cry at the sight of some ants.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed one. It's Stephen Bradley and scheming Chadley. And, okay, now let me explain this one. So a Chad, obviously, we all know what a Chad is, but he's scheming. And his scheme involves ants. He's a bit of an alpha, and he's got a big bucket of ants, and he's put it at the top of a door frame, and the nerd opens it up, the beta, and the ants just fall all over his head, and he's like scheming. He's like,
what about Chad ant schemer?
Yeah, because he's also an ant. I forgot to mention that bit. Yeah,
and then the virgin snake recognizer, and he's crying.
Alison Spittle.
When you spit in an ant, it dies.
Stop doing spit.
It's true.
Mittens, Alison mittens, and they're mittens made out of ants, and they're not
Yeah.
dissimilar to the hair. You know the helmet that's made out of bees. You know those people that cover themselves in bees.
Yeah.
This person covers their hands in ants. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they're called antis.
And you know the way, like, to get the ants in your face, you put on honey.
Yeah.
And for this, you just put on crumb. You just cover your hands in crumbs.
So crumb hands as well.
Yeah.
So Richard Zimmerman, that'll be, oh my God, Zimmer Ant.
What about Richard Ant-Man?
Yeah, Richard Ant-Man. And he's like Paul Rudd, and he's like, could I be any more Ant-Man? You know?
Yeah.
Bridget Purcell, that's...
His name was Ant-Man, not Ant. I know we sort of went off of the ant thing.
We're not going back, but,
I know what I'm
it's
saying,
good that
I'm
you
just
corrected
saying.
it. It's good that you corrected it. Yeah.
So just for this one, it could be...
Here, I got one. It's pretty bad, okay?
Right, go on.
And it's Bridget, this is so bad, Michael Douglas, okay? Because
Right.
Michael Douglas was in Ant-Man playing Hank Pym.
Hank Hem.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm into ant-based accessories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just crumbs.
Okay, take that, Bridget.
Yeah.
Next up is Milky Fox. That's, of course, so,
What about
like, yeah.
Silky Sock.
Silky socks, the ants
Like-
are all over them.
Well,
We've
I
done
just
it
think That's what
again.
Michael Douglas might wear.
Yeah, he might wear the. I wish I could do that impression. I feel like there's a phrase that I could use to try and get into the thing, but it would be too,
Yeah. Too direct
can't
to
use it on
copy
this
from
one,
another.
on this
Yeah.
pod. So yeah, Michael Douglas is wearing those silky socks and saying that he got throat cancer from going down on his wife, and then he's in the Ant-Man movie. So
Yeah.
Kyle O'Neill, like when Michael Douglas kneeled,
What?
like when Michael Douglas kneeled
Kneels
down
down.
to
Pleasure his wife.
get cancer from his wife,
Yeah.
okay, and then start in the Ant-Man movie.
Yeah. And he was
Um,
like, I got to tell Ant-Man about this.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if he had one of those robot voices, wouldn't it? And he was like,
Hello, I'm Michael Douglas.
yeah, and everyone would pretend like he was just as good.
Is that
Like-
ableist? Me doing
What?
that impression?
Probably, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
The ableist one gets me every time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm
You-
going to shake that one. Be
Have you
more
ever seen that
considerate.
Key and Peele skit where there's like the guy with the burned face and the
Yeah,
audience
I
is-
thought
and
I
he's
could.
like, make fun of me, I can take it. And then the guy's like, my man looking like Freddy Krueger. He starts crying.
This is good. I'm actually not a big fan of them, but that's a rare sketch that I do find very funny.
Yeah, they have such a low hit rate. But
Oh yeah. I like the Gremlins one, even though I know it's actually objectively not good. I just enjoy it.
it is funny when he's just going around the room being like, it's in the
Yeah.
movie. And
Yeah.
then here's one.
I love when he just goes, I'm going to come up with myself, vegetable gremlin, and then he's like, that one's in there.
I love any joke where someone says something and then directly contradicts himself. Like when he's just like, anyone say anything, it's not going to be in the movie. And then
Yeah.
he shows like vegetable gremlin. That's in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about that, but somebody saying they're not going to do something and then immediately doing it is never going to not be funny.
It's like in Futurama, there's one where Professor's like, I'm sure Leela's sick of people gaping at her giant eye. And then he just turns, he goes, ah. It's just staring at her eye.
Oh god. Connor Barry, and that's fucking hell. Tron or Larry, okay? And this
Yeah.
is what happens in Ant-Man. They have to choose between watching Tron or Curb Your Enthusiasm. Okay?
Tron, or I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry.
Yeah. Which is very possible Peyton Reed, the director of Ant-Man, directed. We're not going to look it up, but he probably did do that.
You probably knew the guy at least.
Liam McCartan. Well, I think we all know where this is going.
Yeah.
Lee Ant
What
Please
about,
help me on this one. Please.
what?
Please help me on this one.
What about Steam Cart of Ant? You know?
Yeah. What about Steve Martin, who was in the famous for being in Ant-Man? You know.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He
That's
played
what
the
we know him
banjo.
from.
He didn't make any
Um,
jokes. He just played the theme song.
Yeah.
Next
So,
name.
next name, Claro Newlon. That'll be
Be aware of Ant-Man. Villain.
yeah, because Ant-Man, he's very scary. He took down the Falcon, terrifying hero.
Who's the villain in Ant-Man? A slug?
God damn it, that is crazy. Like, I remember all of the villains out of all of the Marvel movies, no matter how bad they are, and I cannot fucking remember. Yellow Jacket was the villain in the
Right.
first one, and then the second one was
There were two.
Walton. Yeah, and then
How
but
were there two Ant-Man?
I don't know. The second one is very fucking bad. Like, there's a whole history around Ant-Man, but it's quite funny. But we don't have time to get into it yet. So Niall McGillicool. That'll be. Oh, cool! There's two Ant-Man movies. It's like Niall McGillicool. There's two Ant-Man movies.
Yeah.
I really
Niall.
love that.
Niall?
Niall.
No.
You're stuck around that.
Niall. McGillicool, there are two movies.
Two Ant-Man movies. You're just going around the house. Niall? Huh? There are two Ant-Man movies. I guess he's not here.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess I just have to watch them again once he gets home.
Ronan Carey, we don't need anything for him. We've already talked too much about him in Ant-Man.
We already read out his private correspondence. How much more does he need?
What about Rowan Ant-Man expert over here talking about the
grown
physiology?
Man? What about grown man watching Ant-Man?
Hey, that's the funniest one we've ever done as far as I'm concerned. Except for throbbing me. Niamh Kelly. Think of some sort of colonialist or awful person that you want
What
to
about
compare
Martin
it to.
Shkreli? It's because his favourite film was Ant-Man.
Yeah, I think you've already compared it to Martin Shkreli before.
But he looks
so.
like an ant as well.
He looks like an ant. Okay, well, this one's relevant because Martin Shkreli looks like an ant. It's his pincers and his face, his disgusting
Yeah,
face.
his thorax.
Polly Doyle, Polly Soil. The ants are all crawling in the soil.
That's it.
And also Ant-Man soils himself in the movie. Do you remember that when he
Repeatedly.
pisses himself? Because
Yeah.
when you get shrunk down, it's like your bladder shrinks, but the liquid
Yeah.
stays the same. So he's like always pissing.
There's like a close-up shot. It's just like, you know,
Yeah,
like
he
that.
just- yeah. So, Joe Joyce. Now we got the last one is Joe Joyce. So Rejoice are at the end. It's Rejoice. It's Joe Joyce. So Joe Joyce. What about this with Ant-Man? Okay, I've got one, and it's a deep pull.
I have another
Okay.
one. So you go first.
Good, because my one's bad, but it is a deep pull. So
mine
I hope
is
that it's
also
the
bad.
think the care that we put into the thinking. Joe Joyce. What about Joe Cornish Joyce, who originally wrote the Ant-Man movie with Edgar Wright until they had to leave the project. Adam McKay took over, finished off the script. Peyton Reed directed it, then did the sequel, which was far inferior, and it leads me to believe that the best bits of the first Ant-Man movie were probably
They
written
were written
by
Joe Cornish,
yeah,
the guy who's always on.
Adam and Joe, yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, you know the fight scene with Thomas the Tank Engine with that like train. Like I think like
Wow.
in Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man movie.
No, I haven't seen either of them.
Oh right. Well, I don't know if I could recommend them, but like
Yeah,
in
you,
the
you
first
only
one.
discuss them at length with other people on Twitter.
No, I mean like I'm ashamed that I like these movies and enjoy watching them.
You should be out and proud.
Yeah, because I'm just like embarrassed when I guess
You
I
heard
should
of-
be out and proud. Why do I care?
Yeah,
I
have you
love
heard of?
those.
It's like
stupid movies.
NAMBLA. You know, the National Man Boy Love and Ant-Man Lovers Association. Those two things are equally bad,
Yeah.
equally shameful.
So there you go.
Mine was,
yeah.
tinny voice.
Yeah, because he's got like a tiny voice. He's got
Yeah.
a tiny. I'm trying to do a tiny voice. Like I'm down here. See, I'm Ant-Man.
Yeah,
It
It's
makes sense
wait.
when they're listening to it. They won't be able to hear barely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gareth, it's too bad you left the room. Ant-Man was here.
What?
Yeah.
Just start crying.
Yeah.
Is he still here? He's very small. He could be here.
Yeah.
And now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 1. And let's just do a quick line that we imagine would be in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Who's that bird over there?
Oh, you're gonna call me a bird? You're gonna call me a bird? Last person to call me a bird is my ex-wife. Okay.
No, I mean bird in the English lad way.
Yeah.
You're my bird. We're married.
Yeah. You'd be more defeated. You'd be like it's honestly, you have to watch some of the trailers for this, James, because they're actually like, if you try to create a buddy cop comedy but an algorithm generated it, it's just, there's so many like bizarre lines that are just delivered with confidence.
So what's our plan? Great. So no plan. 30 seconds!
Enjoy your ride, Buck.
No, you can't call me that.
Why not? That's what Steve called you.
Steve knew me longer, and Steve had a plan.
15 seconds to drop. I have a plan.
Really? What is it?
What is it? I haven't even heard of this. What is it?
It's the new Marvel TV series called Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
How many are there? They already made one.
Yeah, they made WandaVision, and now they've followed it up with this one, and then Loki is going to be after it. Starring
Loki
Thor's
has his
brother.
own TV show.
He's going to have a TV show with Owen Wilson in it.
It's just amazing how they don't understand restraint, because it's like,
yeah,
Loki was funny in the first one,
yeah,
but he's only in it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And now it's like, let's just give him a whole TV show. It would be like if they gave Fraser Crane's dad a TV show.
Well, actually,
which we're all begging for right now. But
well, you just fucking played yourself by mentioning Fraser at all, okay? Imagine somebody in the 1980s going like, it'd be like giving, Frasier in Cheers his own TV show.
No, that's why I didn't say Frasier. I said Frasier's
Yeah, I know,
dad.
but you're in dangerous territory is all I'm saying. You don't know how good it's going to be until it's released.
Imagine if they gave Joey from Friends.
It is pretty much like that. No, that's exactly what it is, because it's like, oh, that guy's kind of funny. Give him like hours of content to just shine, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
Even if they got 2 seasons just out of some sort of like inertia,
Do you know that there's like a scene online which is so funny? Somebody posted up a scene of Joey talking about how he was in love with Rachel. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he's like, and he's talking about like, I don't want to fall in love with my best friend because the last time I did it, it hurts so much, And then people in the comments who are like diehard Friends people are just like, why is Joey such a fucking bitch? You know what I mean? getting really upset about how they made him like a bitch,
That's funny. What other friend did he fall in love with?
Rachel.
And then the other one?
No, that was it. He was falling in love with somebody in the new series, in Joey. And it was his friend before, so he's like cautious about having feelings for her because of Rachel.
I always looked at the Phoebe-Joey dynamic.
Yeah, I like that, where it was like...
They were the only two who seemed to be actual friends.
Yeah.
The rest were too snide.
That's actually true, now that you mention it.
Yeah. And Ross and Monica seemed like they were going out, which was really weird. They used to like kissing the lips and stuff.
Well, they did have an episode where they shifted, do you remember? Like, she was in school, and then he thought that he kissed Rachel at a party, and it turned out that it was Monica in a pile of coats. And then he goes, she was like, I was the pile of coats, because she was really fat, and he was like, you were my first kiss with Rachel? She goes, you were my first kiss ever?
Yeah.
And I was like,
my first kiss with it. Yeah, with it ever.
But it's just like,
I was going to make a joke, and then I forgot that she wasn't real. I don't know. That wasn't funny.
But it is just kind of like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? It was already tenuous enough, the kind of thing where they were like these two. They never for a second felt like brother and sister to me.
No, they felt like there was like sexual tension, but like unironic sexual tension. There was more tension between them than him and Ross and Rachel.
Or him and Chandler. Or her and Chandler, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I know I had to be somewhere 15 minutes ago, but like, It was very weird. There's all this sexual politics that went on in trains.
Well, the one thing that always weirded me out was whenever they would do, like, you know, like, I was thinking about the American football episode the last day where they were playing football, and one of the tactics of distraction that they used was Phoebe showing her tits to the boys, and they, like, stopped. And it was just this thing where it's, like, constantly want to fuck your friends. You know, it's like...
Yeah.
It's just so grim, the depiction of, like... people. It's like, at a moment's notice, we will exchange apartments just seeing you kiss for 30 seconds, you know?
Yeah, that like yeah,
so fucking weird.
and like these people you've known for like years, like really long time.
Yeah.
Weird show.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's aged very well, but
Very
people still love it.
problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, about 2 seasons, all of Chandler's jokes were like, "I'm not gay." Like, please don't make. Like, there's that one where he's looking after the baby with Joey,
Yeah.
and then the whole punchline is that the girls think that they're gay,
Yeah.
that they meet in the bus are gay.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be me.
I'm out and proud, baby. you
Yeah.
know? Couldn't be me. I would tell you I'm gay to your face.
Yeah, I tell my baby I'm gay. You know. Alright.
Okay, well that's that.
And then that bombshell.
Bombshell. See you later.
See ya.